In this video, you'll learn why using different AI models is now table stakes for your business. We look at the strengths and limitations of each model, how your business can be aware of them so you can make the right decision when and how and where to deploy them. We also explore how combining models for the same tasks is a skill that's necessary to take your business to the next level. Hi everyone, welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show brought to you by 0 to 60.ai. My name is Carl Ye. I'm joined by my co-host Jeff Bradshaw, and today we're going to be talking about the use of different models for business purposes. And I think, Jeff, we see a lot in most businesses the first thought of, hey, we got to pick one model and everyone has to use it and that's it. I think in the AI landscape today, the true benefit, and I know most businesses won't even consider this, is enabling or teaching your employees and then enabling them to use different models, still based on what their use case is, but then understanding the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, limitations of all these models, because they actually serve very different, not different purposes, but they can do things better than others in certain things and with different nuances. But I think most people obviously don't know. And that's, back to the gap of those who use AI, but those who use it to its full capabilities.
Well, this is a different way of thinking for businesses. I mean, like you said, most are traditionally it's like pick one tool, we commit to it long term. This is what we're going to do. Where this is what we're going to train our people on, and this is a whole new world in the AI space where you have to change your thinking. Now, obviously, you have to take into consideration things like safety and security, privacy. But you're right. Like what might work for the marketing department isn't necessarily the right tool for the finance department, for the operations department, for HR. So I think it's trying to shift that thinking. But I always use the term, it's a little bit of like controlled chaos is what you need to create that environment of openness and adoption, and not just shutting down a tool because you just don't like it or you've already picked another one.
I'll give you an example here. So for like a finance department, which, they deal a lot with spreadsheets, they deal a lot with a lot of analytics and a lot of data that's coming from around the department. And I've been to, so many different types of businesses, enterprise real estate businesses, enterprise software businesses, right? Government businesses, government organizations. And it's usually that group that has a lot of that. The work that they do is either on sheets or mostly Excel. And to me right now, the clear cut benefit or large language model or AI tool would be, Anthropic's Claude, especially with their advanced use cases of Excel, right? Having a plugin on right inside Excel, being able to connect to your Excel data, having the ability to see Excel. I know the other models can see CSV or use Google Sheets, but for the majority of the working world, Excel is still, I would say, number one in terms of what you do. And I think like that model would work. But then let's go switch to the marketing team where they create content, create images, video. Well, with Gemini 3, that would be probably a preferred model. It's not like that Claude can't do it, ChatGPT can't do it, but guess what? It's if your marketing group does a lot of content creation, multimodal video images, that's probably the model you want to gravitate towards. But then on another side, for the rest of the business, who let's say most of them use ChatGPT, maybe that's enough. ChatGPT for business would work because it's an all-encompassing model. It can create images. You can create video with Sora 2. Is it going to be more nuanced than Gemini 3 or Claude for those? No, but it can still work. But that's what I mean is very few businesses allow that. It's sort of like, oh, Microsoft Copilot, or we're going to go ChatGPT for business and that's it. But I'm like, you have to tailor your use, your business use and team use and departmental use of what they're actually doing and the model that best serves them.
Well, and let's talk about the elephant in the room that we run into all the time, and that's most companies we deal with choose to go with Microsoft Copilot,
Yeah.
and they just lock in and they see that's our tool. That's what we're going to use because it's secure and it's safe and it's our environment. And I think the competitive advantage, if a company really wants to outperform and beat their competition, don't just stick to Microsoft Copilot. Adapt this new open mindedness where you're going to use whatever tool is the best tool for the task at the time. And I think you can make huge leaps in a competitive situation. And I think the other thing too is that it's also not just it's staying open minded. We see this all the time where the tool that's best today might not be the tool that's best next week. And that's a real big shift because, you know, 2 weeks ago, you're using X tool, a new one comes out, now you're using Y, and that's a total shift. But if it's going to perform 20, 30, 40% better, why wouldn't you make that shift just because you don't want to
Yeah.
change?
Yeah. I also think too, there's a someone, I don't know where I saw this, but had the perceptions like you're not buying software, you're buying, whether it's how in your mind, however you think about it, a tool to do a specific job. So, for example, if I wanted to rent a, I don't know, a bobcat, right? Do I want to have the bobcat for a year? No, I want it to do the job, and then maybe I don't need to I can return it. So a shift in thinking would be, hey, our finance team really needs to do this heavy work in Excel for the next 6 months. It's not bad to pay Claude Max at $140 per account, or 200. It depends on how much work you do, just for that 6 months, and then bring it all down to $20 a month, or not. I don't know, but that's a different mindset than, oh, I need to pay for this for the entire year because that's how our annualized budget works. And I think that goes into AI is really upending the legacy operations and how the processes and how business have done things in the past.
But with that license fee too, is that a lot of companies think that, well, if I buy it for Carl, then I've got to buy it for the other 50 people. And I'm like, no, you don't, because
No.
Carl and three other people are the only one that's using it. So you get four licenses,
Yeah.
allow those people to use it, get that return on them. And $140, in all honesty, like we've seen some cases with our clients where they might spend $140 a month, but it's saving them a week's worth of work. Well, that return on investment isn't really tough to calculate.
No,
It's a
it's
pretty
not.
small investment, or a $20, chat GPT for business account, but only for the people that are using it. You don't have to roll it out to everybody because if you're not going to use it, why should you pay for that license? The other thing we talk about too is that, start out, don't buy an annual license. Go month to month, pay the extra $7 a month, but then it gives you that flexibility to shift, and that's what we do. We don't buy long-term contracts because what's good today won't necessarily be best for tomorrow. But it's almost like, I think what we find is that business owners, people, executives, they look at it like they just want to check the box and say, okay, we're doing it. We've taken care of it. We made that decision. Let's move on. And I think, again, that's where we keep talking about that shift in mentality of going, no, no, these are like tools that are going to make you efficient. Pay a little bit of attention to it and be willing to shift. The upside is massive.
And even if you've selected your tool, whether it's a Microsoft Copilot, let's say you've done it, but you still have to have enough room to enable your teams to use something that will be better, could be better for their use case. And I'm not saying Microsoft Copilot is terrible across the board. There are times when I've heard from our clients say, hey, my job, there's a good chunk of it is predicated on looking at emails, analyzing all these emails from different people. It's like, Microsoft is actually pretty decent at with the Microsoft Graph, being able to graph your communication across teams, across Outlook, connected to the calendar, and that whole ecosystem for that specific use case works. But then do you need to roll that out to everybody who's not going to be in? No, you don't. And it's the same thing with a chat GPT for business, or like you were saying, everything else. But I think people are also forgetting there are other tools than large language models, right? So if let's say, go back to the marketing team, hey, they do a lot of video. Well, it's like, hey, it may not be a bad thing to give them a Higgsfield subscription. Or let's say your operations team does a lot of work that they do a lot of presentation, but a lot of slide deck work. Maybe a GenSpark, a third party tool, can do a lot of work help them for that specific use, right? And so we can't just be limited to large language models, but then there's a whole host of other tools there that could help or augment the other tool use case. And I think that's a little different because I think that kind of freaks out IT. It's like, so you're telling me we have to support all these different tools? Like, well, you don't have to support it, more so like there's only like 6 people who are going to be using it. So, and going back, this is where your AI council is a big piece. Is it doesn't fall on IT's lap anymore. It falls on the council's lap and be like, hey, these are the tools. What are the best practices? How could we support it? And even like one of our clients, I've told them the administration for ChatGPT for business in this case, or any other things going forward, should rely on that council. IT's on that council, but the administrators should be all those people because they're the ones, it's their responsibility, not just IT's.
Well, and I think that there's many cases too where you might want to give people access to different tools. Like if you're doing some deep research, I mean, sometimes I'll use 2 or 3 different deep research tools because sometimes I'm getting better results from other ones, or maybe I'll do 3 of them and then combine them and do a summary and I get a better output, right? And again, and I'm the furthest thing from a IT security expert, but again, it's people are so we run into it all the time. People say, "Oh, well, I don't want to use these models because I don't want to share my data because people are going to find out." I mean, that's not the case. I mean, if you check the correct boxes and you don't have a training on your data, it's not like as if I upload a spreadsheet of our financials and you can search it and find my financials word for word. And I think from a security standpoint, and again, we should get a IT security expert on here. You're more than I am on this space, but I mean, it's more so about keeping people out because you don't want to get hacked, right? Like you don't want people to come in and access your system. And that would probably be the biggest concern, as opposed to somebody uploading a marketing plan for the next quarter and worrying about a competitor finding out what you're going to do. I mean, that's just not reality.
No. And at the same time, it's probably more likely that, there would be quote unquote a hacker that would just be chucking USBs in your parking lot and some random person takes it and plugs it in and right? Or your random or an employee accidentally emails it to somebody else. There's more harm, like anybody can do anything. So it's like, it's interesting that there is such a big concern about that. It's like, I'm really willing to protect my data. But then they turn right back around and be like, oh, yeah, I use the free version of ChatGPT and I've been uploading our. I was like, you can't have it both ways. And I think like just a little bit of understanding about how the security works, and it's simple, toggle do not train on my data, go to a privacy statement. It's there, enable you to do that. It makes it pretty easy.
Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen any cases in the media where people are uploading financial data and their competitors are getting a hold of it through ChatGPT or Gemini. It's not happening.
No,
There
no.
was a breach, I guess, a month or so ago that I got a notification from OpenAI and said no data was accessed, but there was a breach. We let you know about it. But I mean, these AI labs, it's obviously a massive concern for them. So they're looking into this stuff because they're not open to they don't want to have any breaches. So I don't know. There's that whole side of it. I think the other thing too, and is we talk about shadow AI all the time, and I think that's the biggest concern you have is that, and it's happening in every single organization we go into. The IT team says, nope, we only use Copilot. We get into these discovery meetings, and there's somebody in every single room, and it usually comes out at the end. They're like, well, yeah, I use my ChatGPT, or I use my Gemini, or I use Grok for some of my work stuff. And it's like, that's a bigger risk is when you try, it's like telling your kid that they can't go out to that party on Friday night. So they sneak out their window and go to the party anyways.
Yeah.
Like that's what's happening with AI. So, be aware of it and be more open to letting people use these tools, give them the parameters to make sure they're not sharing sensitive data, but give them some flexibility. And that's what the whole, shadow AI is about is don't try and lock them down because those strict parents probably have the wildest kids out there.
And when you tell somebody no, you shouldn't, in this environment, you're like, why not? And then it's like, what's the issue, right? So I think like, but some people don't even know. And I think that's part of it is just giving them the knowledge that, hey, if you do this, this is a potential action of it. Just having the knowledge, oh, I can toggle data. I can make a privacy statement. I I shouldn't I should use the Reddit rule on in my the thought processes of like, if I copy and paste or upload anything, am I comfortable with it on the first page of a subreddit or Reddit? Like those just little things, because this tech for many people outside the AI bubble is so new. Them just having those little bits of knowledge. Oh,
Yeah.
I get it.
Well,
It
we
makes
tell people all the times too, if you're going to upload financial information, you're really concerned about it, remove any information that relates to your company. Remove that it's for XYZ Corporation and any phone numbers or addresses and people's names, and then run it. Nobody's going to know where the information is coming from. So, that's one way of doing it, but you're still able to use the technology for its massive capabilities and its, PhD level thinking, and not restricting yourself. But I also think too, it's easier for us to say it than to actually do it, because we're in it every single day. And even I always talk about the fact that I can't even keep up because there's so many new releases.
yeah,
I think that's other concerns too, is that people get so overwhelmed. They're like, well, it can do this and it can do this and it can do this. And they don't even have a use for some of these applications. We were in a meeting earlier this week and a client said, but I know it can do these 5 things. We're like, but you don't have a need for that. So don't worry
yeah,
about it. Like they're always worried about like keeping up with the latest and greatest. And I think that's something too, is that you don't have to be up to speed on the latest and greatest to use multiple tools, and get
yeah,
a return on the
yeah.
investment.
It's funny because like there's one, what is it, 2 days ago, that one client was like, hey, I need to prep for this meeting. I should have bought like 5 or 6 Lindy AI accounts. I was like, why do you need 5 to 6 Lindy AI accounts when you barely know what's on your free account of your whatever large language model you're using? Do you even use reasoning? No, you don't. You don't need a Lindy account, right? You don't need that. You kind of have to understand how these things work to start with.
And that goes back to, again, that goes back to why we recommend with every company we deal with is to create an internal AI council that can stay up to speed on this stuff, and you have some champions within your organization so you can share knowledge and experiences. So maybe you don't have time to get out to testing all these models, but maybe somebody else on your team does. Or if you're working with a group like us, like with our accelerator program, we can keep you up to speed every month on what the capabilities are, so you're not having to chase around. Because one person trying to stay up to speed on it can be a full-time job. But that's why those AI councils are very, very helpful. Share
Yeah.
resources, share ideas amongst your team members.
The challenge that I would present to anyone listening, or especially businesses, is within the next month, and maybe that's in December, maybe that's in January, right? Find out from one of your groups, find out like a workflow or process, specifically one that involves kind of a lot of different steps. And then for 1 month, pay for multiple large language models or even different types of tools, right? And give that team the ability to test those 3 models. I think you're going to find there's going to be a lot of feedback coming back, and just different experiences with different the different models. And each of those, your team will definitely be benefit from that experience, rather than here's the only thing that we're going to be using, and that's kind of it.
And just on top of that, Carl, is I would say before you buy those models, go online and watch some short videos on what some of these new models are capable of doing. Like there's a video out there on the 50 things you can do with the new Nano Banana. That's going to set you up that when you buy these licenses, you're going to actually be able to put it to work very quickly.
Learn how AI can impact your business by watching these videos here. Enjoy today's episode. Want to learn more on AI implementation for your business? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next episode.